2016 nostalgia hides something important about platforms. It remembers the colors, apps, memes, songs, games, and screenshots, but it often softens the system that made those memories feel so intense. That is why the year keeps coming back online. It is close enough to feel personal and distant enough to look historical. But if we only treat 2016 as a vibe, we miss the real story. The year was not just a collection of internet memories. It was a moment when feeds, public metrics, recommendation systems, and identity performance were becoming normal parts of everyday life. Start with the warm version of the memory. People remember old app icons, Vine loops, Square Instagram posts, Pokemon Go crowds, YouTube channels, Twitter timelines, and the feeling that different platforms had different rooms. That memory is not fake. Interfaces really did feel more separated. Apps had stronger moods. A Vine did not feel like an Instagram post. A tweet did not feel like a YouTube upload. The internet could still feel like a set of places rather than one continuous attention market. But the hidden side is that those rooms were already being measured. Likes, retweets, replies, views, loops, follower counts, and public comments taught users to read themselves through visible reaction. A post was not only a post, it was a public scoreboard. A joke was not only funny, it had numbers. A photo was not only personal, it had proof that other people noticed. Once those numbers became ordinary, people learned to perform for the room. That is the first thing nostalgia hides. Measurement. The old screenshots feel innocent because the graphics look dated, but the incentives were already serious. People were learning which version of themselves traveled best. They learned when to be casual, when to be polished, when to be outraged, when to be funny, and when to turn private experience into public material. The platform did not need to command that behavior. It only needed to reward it often enough. The second hidden layer is speed. Vine taught a 6-second rhythm. Twitter trained instant public reaction. Instagram trained visual polish and identity display. YouTube still rewarded longer trust, but it also pushed creators to think about thumbnails, titles, and search. Each format trained attention differently. When people say they miss 2016, they may be missing a moment before those training systems fully blended into one another. Use a concrete scene. Picture an old Instagram layout on a phone. The square image, caption, username, and like count look simple, but the screen is preserving a social contract. It shows what counted as tasteful, what kind of approval mattered, how public validation appeared, and how people learned to package identity. That screen is not just nostalgic, it is a small archive of behavior. Now picture an old Twitter timeline. It does not only show posts, it shows sequence, reaction speed, public conflict, jokes, replies, and a style of identity built through constant positioning. That matters because the timeline made global events feel personal and made personal reactions feel public. Politics, fandom, sports, celebrity, news, and everyday arguments could sit beside each other in the same stream. At the midpoint, the twist is this. Nostalgia often remembers the room and forgets the pressure inside it. A room can feel familiar even when it was stressful. A feed can feel cozy in hindsight even if it trained comparison, outrage, harassment, and constant performance. That does not mean the warm memory is wrong. It means the warm memory is incomplete. Moderation is a major part of that missing story. The soft version of 2016 remembers creativity and spontaneity. The harder version remembers harassment, pile-ons, misinformation, and platforms struggling to govern spaces that were growing faster than their rules. A screenshot may preserve the joke, but it may not preserve the person who was pushed out of the room. A memory may preserve the funny clip, but not the audience behavior that surrounded it. Pokemon Go shows the hopeful side of the year. A phone screen briefly sent people into streets, parks, and public places. The internet looked like it could produce shared physical play. But the same basic platform logic could also move attention through fear, anger, or confusion. The lesson is not that one app was good and another was bad. The lesson is that platforms were becoming public infrastructure before most people had language for that power. This is why 2016 works as recent history. The artifacts are still familiar. The screenshots do not feel ancient. The people who lived through it are still online. But the rules have shifted enough that the old rooms look strange. That distance lets us ask better questions. What did the interface reward? What did it hide? Who benefited from public metrics? Who paid the social cost? Which habits survived after an app disappeared? Dead apps are especially useful here. Vine is gone, but the habit of instant payoff survived. Musical light changed shape, but lip sync, performance, and phone-first identity continued. Older Instagram layouts disappeared, but visual self-branding remained. A platform can die as a company while living on as a habit. That is one reason nostalgia feels powerful. People are not only remembering products, they are remembering training. The third hidden layer is selective evidence. Screenshots preserve what was visible, not everything that mattered. They keep the interface, the number, the caption, the joke, or the comment. They do not automatically preserve context, deleted posts, private messages, moderation decisions, or the emotional cost of being watched. A historian has to treat the screenshot as evidence, but not as the whole story. So what does 2016 nostalgia hide about platforms? It hides how early the modern attention system was already teaching people to measure themselves. It hides how much behavior was shaped by public counters. It hides how moderation problems were not separate from the fun of the feed. It hides how a room can feel creative and extractive at the same time. The payoff is not that nostalgia is bad. Nostalgia is a clue. It tells us which artifacts still carry emotion. But history asks why those artifacts feel loaded. A screenshot feels warm because it remembers a room. It feels strange because the room has changed. It feels important because the habits from that room never fully disappeared. The takeaway is simple. 2016 keeps returning because it sits at the edge between memory and machinery. People remember the feeds as places, but the platforms were already becoming systems that ranked attention, measured approval, and trained identity. If this helped the trend make sense, tap the like button and subscribe for fast, no fluff explainers. I will see you in the next one. If this helped the trend make sense, please like the video and subscribe for fast, no fluff explainers. I'll see you in the next one.